This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
To She Wasn't Born Yesterday for women who are 40 plus fabulous by the Empty Nest Chicks. I'm Janet Evans, ex-M&T Saatchi advertising creative who have won numerous radio and TV awards. Not that that'll affect us because we're doing a podcast.
And I'm Dr. Amelia Haynes, who has been a medical doctor for 30 years and specialising in sexual health and mental health and relationships, and I'm generally a very useful human being.
Well, we'll find out about that, but we are here to work together.
People tell me on good authority that I am.
Really? Yes, well, they never say that to me, so I think we're the perfect hosts for She Wasn't Born Yesterday. Well, Dr. Amelia, today we are talking to someone who I guarantee there wouldn't be an Australian alive who doesn't know our guest today.
Right.
Like, he is such a megastar.
Okay.
And, he is the winner of 9 Golden Guitar Awards.
That's impressive.
I don't know what happened to the 10th one. Maybe he just didn't want to win it. He's won ARIAs, APRAs and acclaim everywhere you can possibly imagine. He did Play School, which is the ultimate test of a legit kids entertainer, for 12 years. How did he survive that? We don't know, but we're going to find out. He is also Australia's #1 Christian kids artist. He is really genuinely the equivalent of a Christian Wiggle. And so we are absolutely thrilled to welcome Colin Buchanan to She Wasn't Born Yesterday. Welcome, Colin.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
As you were doing your introduction there, as we say in the country scene, nice introduction.
Did you learn to do that on purpose?
Introduction.
So that you sound more country?
I was thinking, whoever they've got on today sounds like a banger. I'd like to meet this guy. And then I found out it was me. And anyway, you're stuck with him now.
You are hilarious. Well, look, I have a private secret confession to make.
Yeah.
And I hope this isn't the end of the interview. But, Colin, I have never actually listened to your country music. Is that the end of the interview?
Not at all. No.
Really?
It's in fact, I'd say it's a sign of thorough research.
What? Oh, hang on. You've won 9 golden guitars.
Yeah. Look, there are those who say, I like music, put country in front of it. Not so much. And I understand that. There's a lot of sort of generic snobbery shown towards. I'm not saying you're a snob.
No, she's not. She's not.
But
I'm just generic.
Yeah, it's like, country, no. The thing that's sort of a little strange, and it's just a reality of country music, is it's very sort of driven by the genre. And when I first got involved, there were lots of people, you got to keep it country, and that's not country, and that is country. I just love storytelling. I think great music, which is the quest, really. It's not something you could do, as Paul Kelly has said. I didn't say it. If I could write a good song, that'd all be good. It's pretty close. But I mean, in the case of Paul Kelly, it's really interesting because I'd say there's so many songs like To Her Door and How to Make Gravy, have everything. They're country songs in so many ways. They take their narrative cue from the storytelling of country, and he's just like all of us. We're sort of a patchwork quilt of musical influences. I don't feel compelled to defend. Certainly not my own music and country music, other than hopefully one day you'll hear a great song and you think, "Wow, that's a great song," and then maybe later you'll go, "Actually, that was country."
Maybe I'll get into your backlog, your...
Is that what they call it?
Catalog.
Catalog. Sounds more like a blockage of some sort.
I'm sure that's what
someone familiar about that one.
I was going to say, Colin, though, you do represent the soundtrack to a lot of, since this is a podcast for 40 plus fabulous women,
I
theoretically.
thought you were going to say 40 plus listeners, and I thought, wow, we're going well.
No. It's really 40 plus fabulous women, but I think a few men tune in as well. But I was going to say, you are the soundtrack to a lot of our lives. If we've had children, we've seen you on Play School, and if we're Christian, we've had you rammed down our throats at worst and absolutely delighted in you at best.
And sung all your lyrics word for word, they're just earworms.
Look, I'm trying to work out where the upside is in. Look, I do have a diverse career because I know we lost some of those 40 plus women when we said the words country and music together. That's just the way it is. I certainly had a musically diverse career. And it's a bit like getting old. You the view from the inside remains pretty much unchanged unless you walk past the mirror.
Exactly.
That's always scary.
The view from the inside has been follow your nose, do what creatively feels like it makes sense now. And the decisions that I've made, made it more difficult for some areas of my career because I've just felt like creatively. And as a Christian, I think the Lord opens the doors, and sometimes I just think, well, that's an open door and I'd like to walk through it. Yeah. So there is a big variety. But one way or another, to find your music in the lives of people is a really very precious thing. I mean, some people just want to create music and they say that's not important, but I'm not one of those people. I feel like something's completed when the music lands. For it to land into not simply someone listening to music in isolation, but to land into community, which is what a family is. That is a very special thing because music, it laminates itself to experiences, to joys and losses and holidays and seasons. That's a great privilege and a very powerful presence. It is in my life for music that has done that very thing for me.
One of my favourite Colin moments actually was when COVID was, had just hit and the children were home, like our littlest children were home, and we were going, what are we going to do? And suddenly there was Colin doing something online. Yes, that was like the best moment of my life. Yeah, that was so clever, Colin.
Well, I take very little credit for it because I was encouraged by a couple of friends, actually. So Gary Miller was key in it, and the guys at the Gospel Coalition said, you should do something online. And it's like, I don't really know how to make this work. And if you'd seen what I did, it was pretty evident I didn't know how to do it by the last one either. But I've had lots of people express a great deal of appreciation for those. So their impact far exceeded the skill or talent on my part. I think it just gave a really nice sense of nowness and usness. And I think part of its potency was some familiarity with the songs as well. The right people at the right time. And now I feel like lots of people know that I own a dog, although it is my wife's. And they've visited every nook and cranny, We're running out of parts of the house to show people.
That's right. Well, I think it helped people to feel not alone. I mean, it was such an isolating time. And if you could feel like you were part of someone else's family, and their dog, then that was a really good thing. One thing I'd like to know, so, I mean, you kind of talk about it as if maybe it's kind of fairly organic, the way you kind of move from country to Play School to kids' music. Have you been intentional about where you started and where you were going to go and what you were going to do next and all of that sort of thing? Have
I had a plan?
Yes.
It sounds, perhaps it sounds a little bit of a cop-out, but I haven't really had a plan, but I'm glad capital S someone has. Look, I do feel like, much as I love the creative quest, I haven't really cut my teeth on those things in the way that lots of my friends in the music industry have. I often feel they're way more committed to their music careers than I ever was, and their instruments, and they just paid their dues in lots of ways. And I feel like over time I've definitely paid my dues, I suppose. But the Lord opened the doors, and that's how I feel about what happened. I was not pursuing a career in music. We went to live in a little Christian community, so really the driver was our faith, and that community was out the back of Burke. I just wrote songs because I was inspired. Creatively, I'd written songs in the folky sort of style, but a lot of them were just a bit quasi-political. I'd been listening to a bit of Red Gum, and I didn't make a very good angry songwriter. The songs of theirs that I loved, songs like Diamantina Drover, I mean, it was sort of country without being country, but they were story songs and portrait songs. I hadn't actually cracked that until I went out to the bush, and I don't want to tell my life story, but I guess there was some motivation in that I made cassettes, and I gave one to John Williamson after a show in Bourke.
That's pretty big, yes.
And he said, I'll take it, but most of the stuff we get's crap.
I can
That's
imagine.
encouraging.
I can imagine that
Well,
too.
you've got to be robust.
Yeah, that's
And the following year, I gave a cassette to a guy who was in a band called The Flying Emus, which Janet will be familiar with. And they grew up in Caringbah, actually, bluegrass players in Sydney. So they were this interesting hybrid of urban sort of mindset with love of traditional guitar playing and songwriting, bluegrass. He wrote back and said he was living in Leichhardt, so we're getting into, comfort zone now.
We're moving into the metropolitan area, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, I'd really love to produce a record for you if you're interested, because I played those songs to my publisher and my record company, and both said, I'd like to hear more. So we came back. Perhaps I could have gone to a sort of more traditional theological college, like a Moore college, or we were in a Presbyterian church. But we felt we wanted something that would disciple us a little more and help us leave footprints from our faith, if you like, give our faith legs. And it was wonderful preparation for the doors that the Lord opened. So we thought maybe I'd get into some sort of ministry, or the next, I might have done some more training, because it wasn't a highly theological course. So let your natural life be spiritual and your spiritual life be natural was written on the back of the bus. And I think the other thing was I was challenged to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, which is how we got there. So when the doors opened to music, it's like, turns out for Colin, this is what seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness looks like. I'm starting to make demos at a publishing company, and I walked into that, with my faith sort of really intact, and sort of have held it. I've known that's been our treasure, and I've let that sort of shape what I've decided to do or not do, with varying degrees of success in every sense.
Yeah. This makes me want to really ask you, though, which we haven't kind of touched on yet, when did you work out that you could actually write a song? My feeling is there's a lot of dads listening in who still think they've got, one or two absolute corkers, in them. When did you work out actually you could?
I used to walk around the garden and make up songs as a kid, but not write them down. I wasn't trained in any musical way. I didn't do piano lessons. Dad brought home a ukulele when we were kids, and a book on how to easy ukulele. And I did write one song about the local dry cleaner when I was 16, because I was working down there, and I thought, I'll write a song about them. And I recorded it in my room and played it to them. And Barry, the presser, said, can't really understand the words. It's like, Barry, you've had a song written about you, And anyway, I wrote a few songs in church and Sunday school, and that was sort of the beginning of my Christian song. Curiously, I just learned to play guitar, and some friends had written a song that they played one morning when we were rehearsing to play in church. And I said, who wrote that? Where did you find that song? I didn't ask who wrote it. I just asked where did they find it? And they said, we wrote it last week. And it was like, you wrote that song? It was just such a beautiful, wonderful song. It was very singable. And a few weeks later, our church was in a vacancy period, and the guy who was filling in looked between these two who'd written that song to me, who was just standing in the background, fledgling guitar player, and said, Colin, I'm preaching on John 16 on the vine and the branches. Someone will write in and correct us.
Hope so.
Go right ahead. I wonder if you'd write a song for that. It's in a few weeks' time. And I was like, is Neville talking to me?
That was a really huge movement of faith.
That's a great brief.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could have been a stinker too. It wasn't a banger, but it wasn't a stinker either. And and I played it to him, and he said, can you guys just play it before the sermon? And actually on one of my albums, the recording, because they would record all the services, the recording is there. And probably the highlight of the recording is Nev's introduction. He said, John and Charles Wesley would write songs in preparation for the preaching of the word. And I've asked Colin to write a song in preparation for the preaching of the word. Now, the intention is not to draw attention to Colin or to the song really, but to give us a reflection on the word of God in preparation for the preaching. So will you receive that song in that spirit? And it was almost like a sort of manifesto for my entire Christian recorded career in some ways.
Wow.
He's a creative man, faithful Bible teacher, and quite a remarkable chap. And I have asked him, I don't know if you go back to people sometimes who've made comments or had, you've had these seminal moments, and I've gone back and said, why did you ask me? And I just did. Like there was no sort of parting of the clouds and Blues Brothers, but I'm very grateful for that.
How did you get the Play School gig? Because it's like the hottest ticket in town.
A dissatisfying answer would be the Lord opened the door.
Well, that's a goodie, but yes, tell us more.
Not again.
Yeah. I mean, Laurie McIntosh started Cornerstone, which is the Christian community we went to, and he was a big fan of C.S. Lewis. Lewis has got some sort of quote. I mean, I quote, the divine joke of life. There's serious, beyond serious considerations when it comes to the nature and character of God, but there's also a sense in which he's got to be having fun with this whole thing. It's just there's too much laughter, even in the last 15 minutes, to think, he lets that happen and he designs that. And it's something beautiful. And I've done lots of things where I've thought, well, this is a bit of a joke that I get to do this, It's, But in terms of the mechanics of it, I was signed to ABC Music, and I told them I trained as a primary school teacher, and I did say I would love to do Play School sometime. They came back to me and said, actually, we were talking in the cafeteria to Henrietta Clark, who was the executive producer, and it was like, well, send them up. They were auditioning people constantly, a bit like you say.
Yes.
It was lots of actors would audition for Play School. I went up there and I sang Oki Toki Unga with my guitar and built an igloo in the Play School hut, as it was. At
pipe cleaners, egg cartons or something?
No, it was fully imaginative. So no mess to clean up at the end. And they wrote back saying, it just so happened Don Spencer, who was a stalwart of Play School, had recently decided he'd done enough Play School and was going to concentrate on other things. And they said, well, we do need a presenter. If we need a presenter guitarist, we'll be in touch. And I mean, for all the Lord opens the doors, I thought, I really want this gig. In fact, it sounds a bit arrogant.
So did you go and break Don's legs? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Don had a dreadful, what they thought at the time was an accident.
Okay.
But now we know.
Yeah. Don is a delight, actually. And he, they were doing a Botanic Garden shoot with Monica and John Hamblin, the great John Hamblin. And Don was like, nah, I don't want to do that. So only 2 weeks later, after what I thought was the politest knockback letter I'd ever received, they said, we've got one happening in a couple of weeks' time. Would you like to come and do it? And so I did, and I remember skipping out of the, like Maria von Trapp with my guitar case, skipping out of the, onto the, is it the Man of War steps, that gateway towards the Opera House.
Yes.
Thinking, as the sun was going down, that was the best days. I just did a Play School. It was a location, so it wasn't in the studio, but it was just so much fun and so rewarding and so remarkable. I really did have to pinch myself that I was doing it. And I really did love every minute. A lot of things you can't say that about, but Play School was not only a joy to do, but I learnt so much from doing it. And it built so many relationships as well, which are, quite powerful.
How do you avoid, because I know a few people who have actually auditioned for Play School, it seems like there's that real skill in not talking down to kids or anything like that. Did you have to consciously kind of tailor the way you presented to? Well,
interestingly, when I was in the hut, they just had a VCR up. So that was not too intimidating. And don't know, just played around with cameras and things over the years. But I think it was 93 when I started doing it. So my eldest was 3 years old and we just had number 2. And then, 93, 94. So I was in the thick of Kids World, and Helen, one of the early childhood advisors who had been one of the lecturers actually of the Wiggles at Alexander Mackie College, the early childhood training college in Sydney. And so they had these early childhood supervisors who would check the script and make sure everything was developmentally appropriate, and it was all very thorough. And she leaned across to me while I was just between rehearsals, and she said, just see Elliot at the other end of that camera.
Yeah.
That's all you need to see.
Right.
That's all you need. And it was good. And then there's someone to play with.
Yeah.
And although it's a contrivance, it's a very powerful thing. And
I was going to say, were you as, kind of playful as that within your home?
I would say I do. I mean, you've got all the responsibilities of and duties of life, but there is one notable through the windows where I was camping with Elliot and Laura. Elliot's 34 now and Laura's 32, and they were both preschoolers, and it was a ramshackle old single take camping in the bush. But it was funny because we didn't have to act or script it. So I guess we did play and make cubbies and imagination and shared books and a lot of that stuff was the stock and trade of family life.
It was cinema verite, and Play School loved it.
Yeah, it was really very special to do it.
Is that like, in terms of writing Christian kids songs, is that sort of playfulness and like just come naturally to you anyway? Do you think
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of, just generally in creativity, there's the art and there's the craft, isn't there? And I'm sure you both find that in your various creative outlets, that there's the gifting that's sort of innate, and then there's the developing of the gift and learning from other people and thinking, I could try that or do that. Or a friend of mine when I lived in Burke said one Sunday, hey, let's go for a walk along the Wanaring Road. I just want to have a chat. I was like, ooh. He's one of the lecturers. And while we were knocking down the road, he said, do you enjoy leading the singing in church? And I said, yeah, I was helping lead the singing. And he said, I think you shouldn't be afraid to look like you're enjoying it. I'd like to say, if it gives you joy, I'd like to see the joy. And he wasn't saying like these little dancing, dancing club people.
Yeah.
It's like we want real joy. If you've got real joy, well, let that joy come out and let it come out. However, and the first step was really just to look up at the congregation. You can get tied to your chords and your instrument. Just to look up and just say, okay, we're in a community. That might seem like a very small thing, but that was a transformational thing to do. And I did.
Yes, I think that is transformational. Yeah.
And I asked him 25 years later, hey, do you remember walking down the Wanaring Road telling me this?
Yeah.
And I told him the story. He said, I have absolutely no recollection.
Really?
And yes, it was such a epiphany, a moment of epiphany. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he changed your life, but he has no recollection of it at all.
Yeah, those moments. And those 40-plus women who are listening and thinking, life's full of these sort of, perhaps unmemorable moments. It's just remarkable how something really sacred can happen in an unexpected moment, and you don't always get to find out.
And with your children, you don't know which bits of amazingly great wisdom are actually going to be remembered by them. But, one day there will be something. Hey, Colin, I've got a great idea that I'm just going to pitch to you for a second with no notice. Sorry, Janet. I'm thinking as we're all getting older that we still need you very, very much, and that maybe there's a new genre of songs that needs to be written for the kind of mature adult who is perhaps in a retirement village or even, later on. I'm not saying that you're like this now, Colin, but even in retirement home, like nursing homes, we need new genres of kind of music brought into those places. And maybe you can think about, you're so fertile. We need Colin in those places too, not just little kids.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I did do our local church go into a local aged care facility, and I offered to go in one time. I said, I'll do the sermon if you like. And they said, yeah, but 3 minutes or they'll fall asleep. And, it was like 3, 5 at tops, But I just loved it.
It's good for a song. 3 minutes is very good for a song.
Yeah. Well, and even speaking for 3 minutes, it's the same discipline as speaking to children, which is
exactly
don't waste your words, but also you hear the spirit of what's said as well as content of what's said. And when teaching the Bible is important to you, you can think, oh, well, what I say is really important. But the way that you say it, and I guess, as we do get older, you realise that the old people come from somewhere. They weren't always old.
Exactly.
And there's actually, we're in the queue. And so there's much more compassion. It's not like, you guys have just been always old. You're interminably old, which is what the elderly feel like when you're young.
Yeah.
And you're busy with your own life as well. And it was, we were talking about the lost sheep. And the simplicity of that story was really just potent and quite lovely. And we sang Psalm 23, which the old version with my guitar, and they resonated beautifully with that because it's in there.
Yes.
Those songs are in there. But just the whole notion to walk around a group of elderly and saying, Joan, my lamb. Imagine the Saviour saying that, my lamb. You were lost, but you're found.
Yeah.
You won't be lost again. And just, Enid.
Yeah.
It was quite special. And, we're all little lambs, really, aren't we? And in some ways, a child, it's sort of the other end. It was a children's talk, but it wasn't. You need the respect of they've lived for decades.
Actually, that's a very C.S. Lewis kind of idea, is that there's nothing lesser than about children's talks or children's information or children's play. They're not kind of lesser than, and it's the same thing. This is all important right through life's kind of time. And when you're Enid and you're in the nursing home, you're still a little lamb that is precious.
Yeah. And when you're a child, it's Baba do Baba. So you've got both ends.
Back to the lambs,
Yeah, exactly.
Those naughty straying sheep. I have said at concerts, there is a bit of a delicious thought that perhaps, in years to come, there will be some very, very old people singing 10, 9, 8.
That's right, exactly. They're the next generation.
Which is, so be it. But I do like the idea, so I hope the thought that, in some ways the children's songs are, is there a greater song to sing in an aged care village than Jesus Loves Me, This I Know?
Yeah.
And is there a better song to sing by the crib of a little baby?
Yeah.
I think the rhyming song is probably my favourite song,
Well, that is a niche reference to a song on an album called I Want My Mummy, which those who are the enlightened still call that my greatest work ever. The Mummy. I Want My Mummy, the Mummy album.
Fantastic.
It was, I didn't know how to make a record, really. I used to make, tapes in my bedroom in the lounge room. And so this album sounds a lot like it was made with that sort of level of skill. But, gee, we had fun. And the fun still jumps out of the speakers.
Absolutely. I have to admit, when I first heard that song, I lolled. It was actually her name is Jim and the carbuncle. It was just like, that is so funny. And Jeremy. It was just like, who is this guy? What is going on here? He's so good.
Well, I think the key, the key to entertaining others, I think, is to entertain yourself. And I think that's true. The key to teaching others is to sort of be teaching yourself in a sense. And there's something intriguing about the one who is intrigued. There's actors and artists and writers like that. You get the sense of relish. Unfortunately, I feel like I'd like to hear more preachers who are really. I felt like I listened to Chapo again the other day, and I just thought, this guy's having a good time.
Yeah.
You're allowed to.
Yeah. Actually, I can remember someone saying to me that life's too serious to be taken seriously, and I think that is entirely true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you find that kids are actually your harshest critics? Like, do you absolutely know straight away if something's not working with them?
You can just get that sense. It's like, I have definitely my live shows. it's interesting if I've just given a guitar and 40 minutes and no notice and there's a room of kids, yeah, I'll just follow my nose. And generally there won't be a riot, or I'll create a riot of my own design. But whereas the live shows, I've been much more conscious of sort of, with experience of like, I want to keep this sort of in a zone. And that's up and down, So yeah, when I'm breaking in a new show, it's like I'm very sensitive to when that just went too long. Okay, got to tighten that up.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's a certain sort of, it depends on where you are and what you're doing. And
And did you have any actual musical idols when you were growing up or through the years that you thought, oh, I just love them, like Beyonce or something like that?
Yeah, well, she was just a twinkle in her mother's eye when I was. You hear an album or you hear a song and it just power. It's interesting. This morning while I was getting ready for a concert, for some reason I asked the device to play the Angels' Face to Face album. Someone lent me that album, and She Keeps No Secrets and Looks Like It's Coming Down on Me. And it's like these incredible songs, which are sort of interestingly, the songs that it played, because, it goes on, that streaming service goes on to play other songs. And they weren't all pub rock bangers. And then the next one that came on after it was To Adore by Paul Kelly, which is, again, such a great narrative song. And I was driving down Lloyds Avenue, Hurstville, when I heard that song and nearly crashed the car. It was just so vivid. Who is this? And listening to the radio, hoping they'd back announce it to tell me who had sung this song, because that's just a life-changing song, because it's on FM radio and it's powering out and people are listening to it and it's telling the truth.
Yes.
What, you didn't have Shazam at the time?
Yeah, strangely, the internet was still underground. They were they hadn't dug any up yet.
Yeah, it was hiding with the Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. But I did love James Taylor and Jackson Browne, those sort of West Coast and the Eagles. In terms of songwriters, I loved Eric Bogle, who is an Australian folk singer who wrote, and the band played Waltz and Matilda. And I particularly loved Red Gum and Goanna, who were bands that sort of had this contemporary young sensibility about them, but also sort of in the folk tradition as well. They just sort of telling stories, giving you pictures to see as you heard these songs. Yeah, so they were formative artists for me, but I didn't pay my dues playing covers, really. I played a little bit. There was a coffee shop at Hurstville that I on a Thursday night, I would sit in the corner and play my guitar. Yeah, I like to think, I'm not really the sort of artist people would go, gee, I'd love to hear Colin Buchanan sing that song.
I'd love to hear Colin's version of that one. Yeah.
Purple Rain.
Yeah, no, I think we'll let Paul Kelly do that song, and I think he does a pretty good job.
But how did you make that transition between like country music and your kids' music would be pop music, would it?
Well, the really nice thing about it is you get to just play with the genres. It's another part of the playfulness of it. So it is really playful. I mean, the first 3 albums were much more folky. They're a pretty small band. Like there was bass, drums, and Colin, and kids would come in and sing the songs. And I was very conscious of, we just didn't have anything really Australian, not in a sort of broad sort of way. I remember reading some critique that said, oh, if I hear another Aussie place name in a Colin Buchanan song, I don't know what I'll do. But it was like, no, I want this to be clearly, unmistakably us, sung in our accent, because before that it was just really lots of American stuff primarily, or entirely, really.
Yeah.
So there was a sort of key moment. The 1098 album was, I booked an extra player with keyboards, and we sort of did the pre-production a little differently. And that sort of ramped everything up. It was just, that was the sort of key moment of where everything got a little bit more energetic. And I think, there was more play with the genres from that album on. I don't expect people to be, well versed in my what do we call it? Backlog.
Backlog.
So it's all related. And then I have been on this bit of a an interesting thing, this touch point I found when I've talked to different creative artists. So I've done TGIF on Richard Glover's Drive show. That's on ABC Radio, which is a satirical panel sort of exercise, which is very different on ABC Radio. So that's a very different thing to do. And talking to Tommy Dean, who's a regular on that and is a comedian, it's fascinating because in the end we start talking about the quest for truth in comedy.
Yeah.
And it's not so much you got to stop laughing. It's like to do comedy well, there's a certain sort of truthfulness about the way that these jokes have to land. And in fact, Tommy'd say, there's times when I'm happy that I didn't get a laugh because I knew it was true. And the audience just didn't. But, obviously you can't build an entire career on an audience not laughing, but that's not what he was saying. And then I talked to a friend who's a bass player and a producer, and he's like, we've got to work on these songs so that they just land true, they make musical sense. And it's just interesting, this notion of truthfulness. And neither of those guys, to my knowledge, are believers. We don't speak to each other as, Christian people, but we have this resonant thing about the quest for sort of truth and authenticity. And I think that's what, like, Play School, I feel like, the authenticity of the material and the delivery and the ethos, just all those things get together. And when they do, and when they don't, something doesn't quite feel as good as it could.
Yeah, I feel like kids can pick up on that real quick.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's such a refined notion. When I was at Teachers College, we did philosophy, a couple of philosophy classes, and it's, diet philosophy. But as a slightly overeager Christian, I got the notion that absolute truth was really the elephant in the room of philosophy. And I would bring it up week after week. And finally, the philosophy guy, the lecturer was like, look, if you're going to bring your preconceptions in here, get out, And I met his absolute truth head on. I did pass, but I did feel like they missed an opportunity because I think I could have been taught, because I was sort of contending for the winning card, which I think is a fair thought, but I think I could have thought a lot broadly and appreciated the notion of truth in life and in art and in learning. And if they'd been a little more patient and said, maybe an arm on the shoulder and said, look, without losing your faith, let's think about the sort of things that I've found as I've got older. I've enjoyed talking about songwriting. And
it's amazing how much we learn as we get older.
And then you die, so
happy days.
You have to leave behind a backlog. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds like a segue to, and unfortunately we're out of time. So Colin, rest in peace.
It's been lovely chatting
That'll
to you.
never happen. Your music will never die. Hey, but I do want to actually know, like, you seem to be busy like all the time. Your people told us that you were not available at all for about 20 years and you just had this window of opportunity. Yeah. How do you handle the demands like showbiz, media appearances, tours, albums, music?
Well, much as I sort of like to forget as much of COVID as possible, although what you mentioned, about the at-home stuff was a nice little sort of little jewel in that. But you came out of that, and one of the big things just in a creative career, I think, is momentum. And both practically in that you make contacts with people, and there's certain places you do gigs, and that sort of builds momentum, and you're writing, and then it's a season of recording, and so COVID broke momentum, and I think that was part of its damage. Not just that it took away something for a period of time, but it wasn't like, okay, we're back on now. Yeah. And so that created, for me, a bit of a sense of catch up that was really. I think I'm just still learning a little about how to manage that, because otherwise I think I probably would have been rolling a little more, which still would have been busy, but it would have had a certain shape to it. That
it kind of broke the rhythm in some way.
So I've done a lot of performing in recent times, and then I released a country album just this year, so after a long time, about 10 years. So, and that's actually nominated for some country music awards in January. So,
guess what, Colin? I haven't listened to it.
No, and
send me a link.
Actually, send me a link. Aren't I meant to say do yourself a favour.
Yes.
Jan,
Yes, you are.
and go and listen to it.
Yes, and
Don't wait
pay
till
me
you-
money to listen to it.
Force your
Yes.
face into the, into the dinner plate. Eat it. Eat my music.
The vegetable song.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, no, look, I do feel appreciated because your encyclopedic knowledge of that particular album warms the cockles of my heart. But so I it's a busy life, but it also, bandwidth is important for creativity. And if life becomes too tied to answering emails and sort of getting the next thing done, I've always written sort of in the midst. And so I just need space to do that. And that had sort of built its way into that momentum. And then the new sort of post, it's a little, I've got to reshape that. And I'm at an age and stage where, can I jump around on stage forever as a kid's guy, and
Mick Jagger style.
Yeah. I love it, but I also just want to sort of find I feel like, whether or not the, not to sound mercenary about it, but the raw material of the goodwill and the relationships and the learning and all the things that have gone into my long career, whether there's a sort of manifestation of that or whether that just stands as its own thing, which I would be very grateful for, because it's just what comes next. I turned 60 this year, so
congratulations!
Yeah, which is a little older than 40-something.
Thank you very much.
So you can go to the nursing home and feel
No, you're
quite comfortable.
You're quite brightly in young.
I feel like I'm amongst my peers.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, you are. You are.
Well, you definitely are today. I was going to ask you what's next for you, but do you actually have a particular plan for next year?
Well, I'm just navigating the opportunities as they present themselves in a way. I mean, it's slightly less touring. I enjoy taking my story songs out on the road, and I'd like to. There's an artist called Guy Clark who I just love, and some of his albums were not sort of set the world on fire records, but he made through his 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
That were just simple albums, but they just had that nice the grain of weathered timber about them, and I like the thought that maybe I could make some of those albums, and I enjoy collaborating with others as well, and that's a nice thing to bring your skills to other people's lives. So I've done a lot of collaborating in the country scene, not so much in the Christian, although I've enjoyed working with City of Light, actually. That's
okay.
And so maybe there's an opportunity to they produce music for congregational singing, and they have
which is a particular thing which I think sometimes goes over people's heads, because I can't sing, Colin. Like, I'm not taking part in this conversation at all, really. And you know how people always say, you could if you had a singing instructor.
If you wanted to.
No. I would be wiped off straight away. Mm-hmm.
So, look, and there's no shame in that. Well, sometimes there is, actually, now I think about it.
I refuse to feel ashamed of it, really. I like it. I like the whole thing, even though I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's music's interesting. So, you don't have to be accomplished for it to find its particular place in your life. We shall see. My skills are... they have their limitations, that's for sure.
Yes, well, I look forward to hearing the Weathered Colin albums.
Yeah. The Woodgrain Buchanan.
Yeah.
Well, and I have a final question for you. How much toilet paper do you go through in a performance?
I've got a fair supply in the garage, and I did throughout the shortages.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
you were the one.
Were you ever busted in a store for raiding too much toilet paper?
Yeah.
There was already a fair bit before we all got the pinch. But people joke about it. In Perth one time, I was doing my toilet paper blowing. I have a leaf blower that blows toilet paper at the end of the show, which is no Christian should be without one. And the little 4 or 5-year-old was at the stage saying something to me, and I'd finished and I was high-fiving kids, and there was chaos everywhere. And he was talking to me. I couldn't work out what he was saying. I got down and he said, "Is the toilet paper clean?"
Good question. That is a good question.
It is well, if the seed of doubt is there, what a horror this young boy has
Scarred
experienced.
for life.
I went to this Christian show and he sang all these Christian songs, and then at the end,
He recycled
I got
it.
a feeling he sprayed the audience with fecal matter. That doesn't seem right.
No, that's
I'm 85.
He could
I
have
could be wrong.
PTSD.
It's a whole new angle. I think you should do a song about toilet training. Every parent goes through toilet training with their kids, and what rhymes with poo?
Yeah,
I
mean,
Lou. Lou.
what needs to rhyme with poo? I mean, I've got 2 grandkids, and nothing needs to rhyme with poo. Just more poo.
Exactly.
It's a good joke. It's always a good
Gorgeous.
joke.
Yeah.
Oh, look, on that note, I think, we'd like to
We're
thank
on
you
the
so
summit.
much. I know, we've reached the peak. We would like to thank you so much for being on She Wasn't Born Yesterday. But Colin, so if people want to contact you, book you for a show, buy your brand of toilet paper, buy some of your books, music, vids, merch, what should they do?
That's a good question. Wake up to themselves. No, well, there's always the Google machine. I do have a website, but websites in these days websites have become less important, haven't they? So look, the best thing you do, go and find some music, like Janet's going to do after this. Go to the backlog and go and have a little listen to something. And I'm very grateful. I've got lots of friends, and and one way or another they seem to find me. I'm not very good on social media, so please don't be offended if there's not much happening. I'm hoping actually the government have passed legislation to ban social media for under 16s.
They have?
At first I was really excited because I thought they said 60, and I thought, well, they could stretch it maybe to 65. I would be banned from it. Happy days.
Yeah.
Sure. colinbuchanan.com.au. Well, thank you so much, gorgeous. We've loved it, and we look forward to hearing your backlog soon.
Very good. And thank you both. And you're clearly doing a great job. And lots of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really lovely.
Gorgo, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we adore that you listen in, but we'd love to hear more from you. What you thought of this ep, what you'd like us to chat about in future, and we'd really like to thank everyone who's got in touch with us so far and suggested ideas and made comments. Thank you, gorgeous people.
So whatever you have to say, search hopepodcasts.com.au and hit the big pink button that says contact the team. We'll get back to you.
And remember, if you'd like to send us expensive gifts, just park that Lamborghini in the Hope 103.2 foyer. They won't mind.
Join us next week on She Wasn't Born Yesterday. We really look forward to your company.
Hope 103.2. Thanks for listening.